Hello friends, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk you through how I redecorated this old book that I had lying around at home. So I just used clay and a little bit of decoupage and my usual acrylic paint and a little bit of wax. And now I use this book as a prop for my pictures, and in general I keep it as a decoration in my house. So let's get into it. So as you can see, I just start with a normal old plain book that I bought from a charity shop like a while ago, and it's been sat around for a long time, so I had to get my hands on it. So I take this white acrylic gesso and use it as a primer for the book. So the reason to use acrylic primer for this is because, of course, we're working with a book, so a lot of paper and a lot of cardboard, and once we start decoupaging, applying clay, glue and so on, all of those products are water-based, so they would be very likely to warp the book. So priming is essential. If you don't have any acrylic gesso, you can just use white acrylic paint or white chalk paint. Just make sure that you allow the paint to cure fully before you go ahead and do anything else with it. So once I had primed the whole book, I also did the little bits on the inside as well, just using a tiny little brush. I take my Das air drying clay and PVA glue, and so I take a bit of clay, make it into a ball and then roll it out like you would pizza dough or something, and then I put it on the book, rip out as much clay as I need to kind of sit on the book. So the look that I was kind of going for is as if there's a book and there's some like old pages that are sat on it. So we're going for a very antique look. So the more ripped up your clay is and crinkled up and the more cracks it gets, the better. Once I'm happy with the way that the sheet is looking, I apply my wood glue. So this is trade grade PVA glue, and so I spread it all over the front of the book and then put my clay on top of it. Then just using my fingers, I try to get as many of the air bubbles out as I could. You could always use a little needle if you need to. You can just poke a needle through it and then get the air out and then smooth it out with your fingers. I'm a little bit lazy and I knew that I would only be using this book kind of mainly for pictures, so I had to cut some corners there. And so once I've applied my first sheet, I then roll out the clay again and make another sheet and stick it on top. I made it a little bit smaller just so that you could see the sheet underneath it. Next I rolled out a little bit more clay into like a thin strip and applied it to the spine of the book. Again, same situation, rip a bit of clay out and then glue it on using wood glue, and then I left it to dry. So once my clay is dry, as you can see, it's turned completely white now. I cut out this lovely picture that I downloaded from Digital Collage Club. Again, this is a picture printed on a laser printer, so I printed this off a while ago before the lockdown happened. And so I cut it out, I sprayed it with water just so that when I go to glue it down, the glue will seep in a lot easier. And then what I did is just using my nails, I rip off the edges of the picture, and what it does, it softens up the edges so that when I go to glue it down, the edges aren't going to be as noticeable as they would be if I had just left them cut off. And so what I did is apply a little bit of Mod Podge where I wanted the picture to go, and then put the picture on, get all of the air bubbles out just with my brush, and then apply another layer of Mod Podge over the top, and then again left it to dry. So now that my decoupage picture was dry, I took black acrylic gesso, so this is the same gesso that I used to prime the book with, but in black, and I painted the book using this black paint. So you could definitely use just normal black acrylic paint or black chalk paint or whatever you have. I decided to use this black acrylic gesso because, to be perfectly honest, this black gesso is becoming one of my favorite things now. The coverage is so nice, you literally just need one coat, and it is very, very acrylic, so it's very stretchy. So when I painted it, where the spine bends, it doesn't crack, so it was a very good medium to use for this project. When I've decorated notebooks before, I always had the issue of the paint cracking in that bendy bit. So I painted the whole thing, the front, the spine and the back, and then also the little bits on the inside of the cover, I also painted them. So this is what the book is looking like after one coat of black acrylic gesso. As you can see, there is a little bit of crackle effect going on at the bottom. As I said in my crackle effect video, sometimes you get crackle effect if you paint over PVA glue. So then I go ahead and start aging the book. So we start, so of course, as you can see, we start with a black base. And so I've mixed up a little bit of this brown paint, and I take this large sponge dabber. You could just use a normal dish sponge for this. I keep it pretty dry, so I pick up a little bit of paint with it and then wipe most of it off onto the plate. And then instead of dabbing the paint onto the book, I kind of drag it, I kind of wipe it onto the book, so the paint doesn't end up being blotchy, it just kind of sticks on. This did shred up my sponge dabber, but it was on its way out, so rest in peace, sponge dabber. It's time for me to get some more. As you can see, I'm also kind of sliding it across the actual pages of the book, because of course if we're making the book very witchy and antique and gothic-y looking, if we leave the pages themselves untouched, it's just gonna look weird. So you want to work over the pages as well. And then just as you can see, I do the same kind of thing over the back of the book. I kind of rub it on in these circular motions, blending the paints together. So then I took a little bit of yellow paint, mixed it in with the brown, and again added little bits of yellow here and there, because there is a little bit of yellowy shade going on the bottom of that decoupage picture. So I was trying to echo the colors that you can see on the picture so that it kind of blends in all together. So if you're wondering why my book is looking like this now, is because I tried to put on a raised stencil over the top of the book and it didn't work, so I had to wipe it away. So I ended up wiping away a little bit of paint that I applied earlier, but it's okay. It's an old antique book, a lot of things happen to it, it's been through a lot, okay, so it's only normal. So instead of doing the raised stencil that I wanted to do initially, I ended up having to just apply the stencil with some gold wax. So this is Finnebar's gold wax, and I take a natural bristle brush and kind of brush it on through the stencil, and I try to go around the decoupage picture so that the writing kind of frames the picture. And so I applied it to the front of the book, then I applied a little bit to the spine, and I also went over the back of the book. And again, I was trying to achieve this very antique old look, so I'm not trying to get the letters perfectly, I'm trying to make them look like they're like they're not readable anymore, you know, like people have been touching it a lot. So you don't need to be very careful and very particular with the stencil when you apply it. After all of this was done, I wanted to darken it up a little bit again. I thought it looked a bit too bright for my liking, so I took a little bit of black acrylic paint and a dry natural bristle brush, and again I just brushed on the black paint everywhere where I thought it was necessary. The corners, the pages, just to kind of give it maybe a bit of a burnt look, like, you know, like it was saved from a fire or something. Trying to create a mood over here. And then at the end I applied a little bit more of that gold wax on the corners and the pages, and at that point I didn't seal it with anything, but since I finished filming I have applied 2 layers of Polyvan Decorators varnish over it. So Decorators varnish is has a little bit more sheen to it than the heavy duty one, so it has a little bit of a sheen to it, but not too much. It's more like satin. I would have used a satin varnish instead of matte, but I don't have any. That's the best that I could come up with. So there it is, that's the book. So I really hope that you enjoyed this project. I hope that you like the look of the book. I really like it for props. I've already used it in some pictures. I just really like the way that it looks like now. It's like something out of Harry Potter or something, you know, a very like old, antique, used, weathered book. So yeah, you're gonna see it in my pictures a lot. Yeah, so I really hope that you learned something new. Maybe it gave you some ideas for how you could decorate some notebooks. I would have done this on a notebook rather than a book, but I don't have any. You know, you've got to do what you got to do. As always, there's going to be links for everything used in this video in the description below. There are going to be discount codes for Digital Collage Club and for Little Birdie as well, in case if you was gonna sign up or order from them, so have a look in my description before you do that and save yourself some money. As always, if you would like to connect with me, social media links are gonna be in the description below as well. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more videos, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!